Hey everyone, today we are watching a video by Isaac Butterfield, somebody that we haven't really seen a video of. Even uh, regardless of my channel, I haven't ever seen a video by this guy, so it'd be interesting to get his point of view on things. The particular video we're looking at is called The End of Australia, with parentheses, digital IDs within it. So let's see what Isaac Butterfield has to say.
In this video, I'm going to convince you that digital IDs are a terrible idea. I believe that if Australia brings them into law, it will be the turning point that takes our country down a path that it can never come back from. The UK is under the grips of this right now. Their government's trying to sell it to them, and the people aren't having it. Digital IDs are the next step in a world without freedom, of programmable obedience. We are currently following their plan, a trajectory that should absolutely scare the shit out of you. It is all about control. It is all about Big Brother watching you, and it all begins with digital IDs. I mean, maybe, or nothing happens. But it's the ability to do these things that may stem from these decisions. In the UK right now, 12,000 people last year were arrested for social media posts. Opinions are controlled. Freedom of speech, non-existent. And that's exactly what is happening in Australia right now. Fast forward a few years, we will be seeing exactly the same thing, I think. And then somewhere down the line, one world governments, Orwellian states, no freedom, central banking, nothing being owned privately. All these ridiculous conspiracy theories that were once held by kooks are now mainstream possibilities. That's scary. To understand why
Just a little bit off topic, what's interesting is the videos that he was showing before were obviously of China about the digital ID that's already implemented over there, or the social credit system, as they usually refer to it as. I think the interesting thing about that, right, is you have a bunch of Western governments constantly claiming that China is the enemy. But if you think about it, everything that the West wants to implement has already been tested and implemented in China first. Does it make sense for you to want to emulate your enemies? Does it make sense for you to claim that, we like freedom, we want to spread democracy, but then at the same time you're implementing everything to be exactly the same as your enemy? I think what it shows is that they are definitely not enemies. And just like how America essentially forced China into opening up its borders and becoming and trading with the rest of the world and joining the WTO and everything like this, I think this is just a part of what has been discussed between them for ages. I guess maybe... Well, I mean, this is what it seems like based on the actions that we see, as well as how things look like moving forward. It absolutely seems to be the case that the West has worked together with China to establish this social credit system, to see what issues may come about and how to implement it effectively and efficiently, and to ensure that you have control of the population. If you look at China, I mean, there's no uprisings, right? And everybody is just so on board with it. And so I guess the Western governments are feeling very, very confident that, okay, we've got a running model here. All we need to do is roll it out across the rest of the world, starting with the West, because, now, after having a working model from China, now they roll it across the West. The West has a lot of media. A lot of people look up to the West as a benchmark, so everybody will just fall in line after that, as long as the West can get on board. And that's why this is such a pivotal moment, guys. This is such a pivotal moment, because if the West says no, I don't think they can proceed with it. So this is where one of the last stanzas.
I think that a digital ID is a bad idea. You must first understand as much as you can about something called a social credit score. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, but what is it? Let's go to China and find out. In China, the government began developing a national social credit system in the 2010s. Now, its goal was to build trust in society by tracking its citizens and companies' behavior using data from banks, courts, police, and they have this enormous constant monitoring service with facial recognition. They are following with millions of cameras every single person as they move throughout their day. These people get scores put against them, higher or lower. Some people get blacklisted based on the things that they do. Some people achieve really high scores. Some people get very low scores. People who are untrustworthy if they break the law or they show dissent towards the government get very low scores. Low scores mean consequences. Consequences like not being able to travel, having to pay more for gas or petrol, not being able to use certain internet sites, getting slower internet, having to pay more for food, only getting access to certain types of foods. Some of them can't get loans, they can't get access to credit, they can't get certain jobs. They are being controlled in what they do because of things they have done. Now, some of those things may seem like, okay, yeah, sure, some people shouldn't be able to do certain things, but the dissent against the government, that's not a good thing. If you disagree, if you're a sovereign citizen, if you disagree with the whole idea of democracy, should you have to pay more for milk than me? Of course not. Should you not be able to get a car? Of course not. Should you not be able to live a normal life just because of your beliefs? Of course not. You get credits when you're good, when you follow the rules, when you praise the government, and you get punished when you don't. They have...
So, in my opinion, all of this stems from societal failure, right? And the thing is, we seem to believe that the government is there to sort of manage society so that it doesn't fail. But actually, societal failure actually benefits the government. This is the thing that people need to learn. Back in the day of villages, you would trust somebody, and that would be on a personal to personal basis. Oh, I know this guy, he lives down the street. I've lived next to him for 2 years, 3 years. Everything I know about him is that he's a good guy. He's probably pretty trustable, right? If you don't know a guy directly, you'll probably ask somebody else that you know, that you trust, whether or not he trusts that person, right? And basically, maybe at that stage, what would happen is if you really, really didn't know somebody, he lived across town, you don't know anybody related to him, you might go to a village elder, right, and ask them, oh, what do you think of this guy? And this is the problem that stemmed, that is the root of why governments were essentially created, because as societies grow and people don't know each other and people are less willing to trust each other, the government comes in as this sort of arbiter of truth and trust, right? So you can come to us. You don't know if you trust this guy or not. Don't worry. We'll make sure to give you the right information so that this person can either be trustable or not, essentially, right? So they're the ones who determine whether or not somebody is worthy of trust or not. And the more people don't trust each other, the more people are divided, the more people are, immigrants have come in. So then now it's like you have a language barrier between people. All these things that, are signs of society collapsing. And, rightfully so, you'll have citizens pointing to it going, oh, well, this is a problem. How can the government allow immigrants to come in and not assimilate? But it all plays into that. The government is always benefiting whenever there's a lack of trust between people within the society. So naturally, they want to increase that, not decrease that. They want more friction in between individuals so that they don't work together. Why? Because the government can then be the reason, the arbiter of that. For example, when you apply for a job, they might ask for a police check. Why? Because they don't trust you. They don't trust what you say. So they're going to ask the police, what is this guy's record? In a way, it's sort of like a social credit score that they're providing, right? Oh, okay, we don't trust this person. Oh, person, oh yeah, we do trust this person. This person has been caught for this before. This person, like that's the purpose of government. And so what they're doing is they're leaning more heavily into it. And so it makes actually complete sense from the beginning. If you looked at how things ought to be from the perspective of the government, they want this to continue. They want it to be more and more so that they gain more power as that arbiter, right? So this is not a failure on their part. This will always be the end game, right? So the question becomes, America right now is saying, well, we won't be able to beat China if we don't go down that path as well. In a way, they are correct. But where are they correct? If you're trying to beat China in terms of being a bigger government, being a stronger government, then yes, you won't be able to beat them unless you go down the same path. But the whole point is that really winning? Because there's a reason why America was seen as this beacon of light, right? Is because even though it may have not been true, they certainly carried the flag of freedom, the banner of freedom, right? You can do whatever you want here. You can get rich off your idea here. Meanwhile, in Russia at the time, the guy who came up with Tetris, had a great idea. It blew up. It went across the world. It became a #1 game. And what did he get? Nothing, right? So from the perspective of, sovereign citizens everywhere, they looked up to America as a beacon of hope. That's what I feel.
Created a system of mass surveillance that causes mind control. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it is. Thought control, controlling opinions, controlling conversations. That is what they are doing. In the West, we do it as well all the time, but they're doing it through some different means, a social credit score. They have created a 2-tier system of life. The top tier being based on control and compliance, the bottom tier being the bad people, the ones questioning things. And think about the things over the past 10 years or so, or 20 years, or your entire life that you've questioned the government over. Imagine not being able to do that. Imagine being punished in your real life because of those things.
A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens.
See, that's fine if they're actual criminals, but what are they being blasted for?
It's a matter of principle. Those people have to be condemned.
Yeah, okay, it depends why they're being condemned.
Those people aren't honest, so they have to pay the price.
It's only right to pay your debts. You have to blacklist those that don't.
Okay, so is this about people not paying back loans or what?
The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0.
Wow.
On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date.
23 million people on the blacklist.
Among them is this journalist, Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members.
Oh.
After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. But he only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
Now, put yourself in my shoes, making this video about the Australian government. What if they could control where I could go? They wouldn't, but what if they could? What if they had the ability in 5, 10, 15 years from now to do that? They could do that. This is another thing. You may think that it's a great idea and this government, you love this government, but what happens if this government changes hands, which it will in the future? And if you're a left-wing person, a far-right government comes in, or if you're a right-wing person, a far-left government comes in. See what I mean? You don't know who's going to be in charge of the laws that you celebrate right now in the future. And if they are questionable now, they will be fucking questionable in the future as well.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
So this is the whole thing with untrustworthiness. What does that mean? It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean you're a criminal and you rob people, you steal from old grandmas, or you uncover corruption.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
So this is what happens when you have a social credit score. So why is the digital ID the first step towards that? Why do I think that this could happen, potentially? Not the government now. No, they're great. But maybe a government in the future. On top of all of this, there is the idea of carbon footprints and individual carbon footprints. Hey, we've seen you at the supermarket 3 times this week buying meat. You've had enough meat this week, mate. No more meat for you. You can't buy meat because it's affecting your carbon footprint too much. You've driven too much this week. You've caught too many planes this year. No more for you. Being able to identify exactly who you are at every single step throughout your day, and then implementing surveillance and then implementing control is a great way for you to lose every single sense of freedom that you currently have. And if you don't believe the governments will do that, then you're a fucking idiot. And the reason that I think the digital ID could, and many other people think this, by the way, this is not an original thought by me. The reason that this could be the first step is you have to have one to access life. That's what they're doing in the UK. In the UK, for you to work legally there, you have to have a digital ID, right? Even though you have to prove you're a citizen to work there, and people get around that now, and they'll get around this, whatever. In Australia, they're going to do it in a different way, potentially, maybe, possibly, who knows? Probably not. No, they're great people. In Australia, they're banning social media use for people under the age of 16. But you somehow have to then prove that you're over the age of 16 to use Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Right? So how do you do that? Well, you have to create a digital ID that proves exactly who you are. And then you can be tracked through everything you do. Sounds great. And then on top of that, accessing help through the government, you have to have a digital ID for your car, all this other type of things. These will be laid out into the future. So everyone will have to, at a certain point, have this ID. And it really doesn't matter what you think or what I say in this video. The UK had a petition, 2.5 million people or more wrote in a petition, signed a petition for the UK government to consider that this is not a great idea. And the UK government's reaction to 2.5 million of their citizens signing this, if not more, nah. No thanks, not interested. We've made our decision. Shut the fuck up, all right? Go back to work, you fucking pieces of shit. Or words to that effect, I guess. I am not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, okay? Maybe it's not going to be as hectic as 1984, right? It's not going to be this big brother watching over us, controlling everything we do. But there is no doubt in my mind that we are losing freedoms. And I don't want to be that fucking conspiracy guy, okay? I'd like to be somewhere in the middle. I think it's healthy to have some level of question absolutely everything, but don't question everything all the fucking time. It becomes painful. But at this point, you got to think to yourself, what the fuck is going on here? Like right now with the Digital ID Act, it's voluntary, right? But banks, telecom companies, airlines may require it in the future. People are trying to sell this as a convenience. Like it's so much easier to show your ID to someone or prove who you are. Just with this, it's on your phone. Look, but what happens next? You won't be able to access Medicare in Australia. You won't be able to access Centrelink. You won't be able to access banks, all that type of shit. Potentially, possibly, allegedly in the future without this. The government right now probably won't use it to track you. They probably won't. But a lot of things can change. We saw that in the early 2020s. A lot of fucking things can change. This doesn't just happen overnight, but it also does. We sit there and we think, no, this isn't that, this isn't happening, it's not that bad. And then one day we wake up and go, fuck, how did this happen? Like it just happened randomly. It doesn't happen super quickly, but it appears overnight. It's very, very strange. Like it happens in steps. First, they've released the Digital ID Act, and then they start to say, well, you should have it. It's helpful. It's easy. And then everyone starts to get it. And then, well, you have to have it to do this. And then, well, you have to do it to get the internet. And then, you know what? Your digital carbon footprint's a little bit heavier than other people. Maybe you should tone it down. And then, you know what? We have an outbreak of an illness. You can't leave this area. You can't do this. You can't travel there. It all happens under our fucking noses. So we must watch for warning signs, I guess. Watch the private sector. When do they start demanding that we use it? Because when they adopt it, that means it's mainstream. When do these scores, the first time someone starts mentioning scores, trust scores, all these type of scores, then you have to fucking freak out. This isn't about left wing versus right wing. It's us versus them. And I don't believe that people go into government to be bad people or control other people, but there's something about power. When people get power, they forget who they are. We need a revolution.
See, this is where I disagree with him. People don't go into government with good intentions. They're good people, and then they get in there, and then something changes, and then that's not how it is. To be allowed in the first place into a political party, you've already made the deal with the devil. You're not allowed to step into a political party without you already agreeing that, yeah, okay, my personal moral beliefs, I'll leave them at the door. From now onwards, whatever the party says is law in my mind. There's no such thing as a party or anything that you're going to go into that doesn't make you do that. You're not allowed to step into it without already making that deal. This is the thing that I don't like about how some people feign ignorance or feign naivety. You know, like, just use your head. Are you allowed to go into a business and then you go into the business and then you go, you know what? I actually don't agree with your vision or your mission. So I'm going to work here, but you know what? I'm not going to do as you need. It's not going to happen. As long as you have a political system based on parties, the parties have what they want to do, and you either go in there and agree wholeheartedly, or you're not allowed in the party. So, like, let's stop feigning ignorance, guys. Come on.
In this country, and I don't mean taking to the streets. We need a political revolution. We need people who genuinely care about every single person that exists on this fucking planet and come up with a way that we can look after each other. And that starts with freedom. That starts with allowing people to be adults and looking after themselves, not dictating what they can and can't do. And I fear and I worry that this digital ID could be the next step, probably not the first step, but the next step in this operation that is all about control. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Be a good motherfucker. Peace to the Middle East. Be the extinct. Toodaloo, au revoir. Bye-bye.
I'm glad that he's spreading awareness on these things. I do agree with him that we need to be worried about this whole digital ID thing moving forward. But I definitely do not agree with how naive he seems to come across when it comes to these things. I mean, he's saying a political revolution. Good luck with that. Whenever they want to install somebody within a country, they know they have to create chaos. It's not going to come through elections, right? So my point of view on the whole digital ID thing, which is interesting, is in China, the government provides so many benefits to the people, right? You know, transport, a home, and everything. And so people have everything to gain by being a part of this social credit system, right? And right now in the West, there seems to be no benefit that comes from this. It seems to be the case that, because they can either do one or two things, right? Like during COVID, what they did was they took our rights away, and then they said, you can have your rights back if you submit, right? Now, the question is, are they going to remove our rights again and then only award them back if you jump on to the digital ID train? That's sort of what they're doing when it comes to the under 16s not being able to access social media. So they want you to jump on digital ID so that you can have access to social media. And they know a bunch of people are addicted to it. So it certainly isn't, you know, the nail in the coffin, like everybody's going to jump on board, but a significant amount of people will probably jump on board, knowing how addicted people are to social media these days. Or are they going to allow for benefits to be provided to those with the digital ID? You know, in that case, you know, they say, we'll give you this if you sign on to the digital ID. And that could be something that happens. You know, they have these, the cost of living crisis all around the world is going up, but it's especially bad in Australia. You know, people on real terms are getting paid less and less and less. And so maybe what they do is, you know, AI takes over, people are jobless, people are homeless, and so they start to implement a system very similar to the COVID job keeper and job seeker programs that they had during COVID, where they started to give money for free to people. It was basically a test run of universal basic income, right? UBI. And maybe what they do is, you need a digital ID to get onto the UBI train. And then they just allow the economy to collapse in on itself. And, just allow people to get more and more desperate. I think the problem there, right, is people that are going to fight back are the people that have nothing left to lose. And so this is a balance that the government must do, where essentially they need to have that carrot on that stick to encourage people to get onto this digital ID. But at the same time, they're doing it through methods that makes the economy so bad and everybody lose everything that they might just be at the stage where they have nothing left to lose. And if they see the government doing this, they might just go, balls to the wall. A revolution. And, the question becomes, is that the plan? Is the plan, because I have heard that there is a plan for people all around the world to overthrow their own governments, because these multinationals are all in touch with each other. I mean, they're all this big monolith global, corporation now that are owned essentially by the, BlackRock, State Street, like all these big funds now. And so 100% they could all be coordinating with each other because, they're part of the same structure, right? So yeah, scary times. To be honest, I don't know where it's going to go exactly. We know where the end goal is. They want you to get digital ID, but how they go about it might change, right? If they see that, oh, wow, people have nothing left to lose and they're not jumping on board, maybe what we need to do is we need to give them reasons to jump on board, right? Or if they decide to, oh no, we're going to punish them for not being on board. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how far it goes, and we'll have to see how far the people are willing to fight. I think that's what determines how this moves forward. Those are my thoughts on this whole situation anyways. Be interested to know what everybody else thinks. Please comment below. Let me know what you guys think about this. Please like the content. I really want to know what you guys like. I would like to focus on videos that I feel are a little bit more targeted to what you guys like to hear from me, my opinions on. And please subscribe for future content if you are enjoying the videos that I'm making.